Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Program, Pot Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Thursday. That means we'll have Brent Beaird, our college football analyst, will be joining us. We'll also have Frank Frangie, voice of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Talk a little bit about the Jags and their big win, comeback win against the Ravens, and what we can expect from the Jags the rest of the year. As we all know, some really shocking news about Jalen Kitna. Just shocking to me. Know his family, comes from a great family. Just a horrible mistake that is not very good. So anyway, with all that said, we're going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. You're on the Titan MR hotline. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine. It's a wonderfully cool morning here in the Jacksonville area. Getting ready for the games this weekend with the championship week. Obviously, big news from the playoff, and our Heisman Trophy votes are due Monday at 5 p.m. So it will be a very interesting next few days.
I know you can't tell us who you vote for until I think afterwards, but have you already submitted your votes, or are you going to wait till?
No.
You're still waiting?
No, I never do until the championship weekend. I mean, you just really never know what's going to happen. Now, it is shifted from early on. Caleb Williams, obviously from USC, Max Duggan from TCU, that a lot of people probably don't even know his name, but he will make the trip to New York. C.J. Stroud of Ohio State, Stetson Bennett from Georgia, Michael Penix from Washington, who is really good, and also Bryce Young of Alabama. Now, look, listen, this is why I never vote early is, for instance, everybody thought Hendon Hooker was going to win this thing in October and early November, and now he's not even mentioned, unfortunately, because of the injury and where Tennessee's season is gone. So that's why I never vote until the season is completed, which will be I'll vote either Monday morning or Sunday afternoon. It's just good to have all that done before you do.
Brent, do you think they'll take more than 3 to the presentation?
You never know. That's a good question. I wish they would. I wish they'd take 5. I think these guys deserve it. Look, you may not win, but when you've had the season some of these guys have, they deserve it. I mean, for instance, Stetson Bennett won't win it, but doesn't he deserve the trip to New York and to have a little bit of that Heisman love shown his way too? So hopefully that will happen. That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, who has the biggest? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot here. Who's won by like the largest vote total in the history of the Heisman?
I'd have to go back and check that.
Yeah.
I don't remember offhand. That's a good question. But what I do wish would happen with the Heisman is that we would look at it's really become a quarterback award, and we need to really look at this as far as who is or there other more valuable players in the nation at another position and that's something the ward needs to examine.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick before we jump into the playoff talk, Dan asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, is the voting method new this year, or is it the same as it's been in a while?
Well, the voting method is the same. It's we do everything by basically email. They'll send us a ballot. We fill the ballot out. What's different this year, and I don't know where this is going to go, but there's an additional, they say, security tweak to the voting, and my concern is that it gets complicated unnecessarily, and that's going to cause people to end up, instead of trying to vote, they're going to end up having to call in their vote and deal with that. So that's going to be the biggest change as far as having to deal with getting our votes in.
Dan did the research for us. He says Joe Burrow has the most votes. I for some reason, I think Caleb Williams is going to do the same thing. I know the Duggan out at TCU is a great story, but Caleb Williams is on a different level. All right, so Brent, finally, we are set, I think, for the college football playoffs to begin in 2024 due to the granddaddy of them all, who for whatever reason has to sit around and make these decisions for the entire country. But 2024, we're set, right?
Yes. It's wonderful news. It's revolutionary for college football. If you're a college football fan, this is the best news that you could hear, is expanding the playoffs. And again, it's accessibility. You're going to have conferences like the ACC and the Pac-12, although that may be changing a little bit with the resurgence of Southern Cal. But you're having conferences who normally would not be in the playoffs. They will now be in the playoffs. And the other thing, and this is the number one thing of all, is right now, and people can relate to this because it's right in front of them, we will announce on Sunday who the 4 teams are. Well, you've got maybe 6 fan bases, 7 at the most, that are interested in where this is going. The rest of them, I'll find out where my school is going to be in the bowl game at some point after they announce it. Well, now, by going to 12, you've got not just 12 fan bases interested, you've got probably 20 or maybe up to 25. It just does so much more for the game. And if you start poorly and you've got a team that really catches on fire, this would have made really a tremendous difference. Look, I thought about this morning. If we would have this in play for FSU in Miami with all those wide rights and wide lefts and field goals, FSU would have still been involved in the playoffs at the end. So, the reality of this is, and Dennis Dodd said this well. He said, in an expanded playoff, the games themselves are more important than the bowls that host the contest. And the Rose Bowl, and I'll be quick about this, has continued to think that they've got all the power, that they've got this time slot on January 1 that is just made for them as we see the sunset over the San Gabriel Mountains. And you've got 2 teams that probably got 6 losses between them, and people are supposed to think that's important. Well, we're way past that now, and we're at the point where we should have been 20 years ago, is instead of the bowls running college football, the college football playoffs are running college football, and we finally have gotten where we should have been a long time ago.
Yeah. Greg says, has the number of teams been decided? 8, 12, or 16? It's 12, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
12.
it's set at 12. Set at 12. So good stuff right there. All right, Brent, there's a bunch of conference championship games. Obviously, the big major conferences, but you got the smaller ones, which I like watching all of them.
Sure.
But I was trying to think of this, and again, when I start thinking of stuff, and I don't really do a whole lot of research, which I probably should do. But when is the last time the SEC championship game had a team like LSU with 3 losses that has no national title hopes played in that game?
It's been years since
That's
we've
what I
had
was
anything
thinking.
like that. Yeah. Now
Maybe it goes back to the first one ever when we were we were 8-3 or 8-4. I can't remember playing against the undefeated Alabama team. I don't know.
Right. Now look, I think this will be a better game than people think it will, because LSU still, as we like to say, they still have dudes, and they've got good players. I mean, Georgia's the most consistent team in the nation. But here's something to think about for our listeners and viewers, and this is how this is going to change. The SEC is doing away with divisions, and as we expand the playoffs. So what that means is what we should have probably had instead of LSU and Georgia would be if you do away with divisions, you're going to have and they'll come up with some formula for this, but you basically would have the 2 top teams, which would mean for this year, if they did away with that, it would either be Georgia and Alabama or Georgia and Tennessee. Again, think about that, because that's coming. The SEC in the next 2 or 3 years is going to throw divisions out the window, and we're going to look at it differently. Some conferences have already done that, but Shane, that's what's going to change the SEC championship game. But you're right, that this is an SEC championship game that virtually has nothing riding on it.
Yeah, I got great listeners here, Brent. They've already done the research for us. It was when McElwain took the Gators and we played Alabama. You know, the Gators had no business being there, but we were there somehow. Brent, let me ask you this, because I think in the Power Five, I think everybody really thinks Georgia's going to win. I do. I think Georgia's going to win big.
Yeah.
I think Michigan should win big. However, Jeff Brom and Purdue, they can throw it around. They'll make it interesting, and Michigan kind of plays boring football, so it could be close for a while. But the other two, that the playoffs are riding on are the Big 12 with TCU, who people may forget this. They were losing by 18 at home to this Kansas State team, and they came back and won the game. Right. And then USC lost on a 2-point conversion at the end of the game at Utah. What happens, in your opinion? Let's just say if one of them loses or if both of them lose, who's getting in?
Well, let me mention this too, is the Southern Cal game with Utah is Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And folks may not be aware of that. That's Friday night on Fox. And that's going to be that will have a huge audience because so much is riding on it. Well, what we don't know is what if, and the main ones here, if Georgia loses, Michigan loses, it doesn't matter. They're going. All that might be changed will be the seeding. Now, for TCU, if they lose, how far would they fall? And the same thing would be for Southern Cal, because you've got either Ohio State or Alabama that, under the right circumstances, could actually jump up into at the number 4 position, and number 4 obviously would play number 1. And again, what we don't know here is, because it's a committee with people, we don't know what that committee is going to be thinking. Now, look, they've got, and I've done the mock trial and going to Grapevine in 2018. It was fascinating. You would not believe the stats they have in front of them as a committee, but their charge is find the best 4 teams for the playoff, and that's the number one criteria. So with that said, Shane, we can have chalk, obviously, if everybody wins, or if they don't. And see, the other thing is, you've got Southern Cal and TCU, Michigan and Georgia are used to this. When you're on the big stage and you've got so much at stake and there's so much pressure, how do these guys perform? We don't know that. So that's what makes it intriguing. Would be that situation. But again, the teams we're talking about, Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, maybe getting involved in jumping up and being in there somehow. Well, if we're in a 12-team playoff, that's a moot point because they're all going.
Yeah, it'll be interesting what happens. A lot of coaching vacancies out there. David Shaw resigns. Do you think he did that on his own, or do you think he was forced out at Stanford?
No, I think this is one that he did on his own. I'm not sure that. I'm not saying the seat would not have gotten rather warm, but I think that he did, and that there is now, after he resigned, this is pretty interesting, there are only 9 Division I coaches who've been on the job 10 years or more. That's amazing when you think about it, isn't it, Shane? And I won't go into all of them. A lot of them, Kirk Ferentz, Mike Gundy, Kyle Whittingham, Pat Fitzgerald, Rick Stockstill's at Middle Tennessee, the Navy coach, Troy Calhoun, Nick Saban, Dabo Sweeney. So those are all guys who've been there 10 years or more. But I tell you what, Trent Dilfer being hired by UAB is one of the more intriguing hires there have been. Deion is supposedly involved, Deion Sanders, with like 3 different schools, Colorado included. So right now, the carousel is spinning rather wildly and will continue over the next few weeks.
Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Doreen Weeby, a realtor with Caldwell Banker M. Parrish, will provide you a fast, friendly, reliable service. Call her today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. Speaking with Brent Beaird on the Titan MR Hotline, we'll have Frank Frangie, the voice of the Jacksonville Jaguars, join us about 8:30-ish. Greg says he heard that Emmitt Smith's son wants to transfer now. Emmitt's kid's out at Stanford. So, we'll see. I think a lot of people forget, kids, they sign with schools. Usually it's not because of the school and the education and all that people want to think. It's because of the coach. And so
that has a lot to do with it. Yeah. And right now, the number one reason for picking a school, and I don't like this, but it's where we are, is NIL, name, image, and likeness, and what they can get. That's the coaches will tell you right now when they're recruiting a kid, Shane. That's the first thing they want to talk about.
Yes, I've talked to several friends of mine that are coaching at all different levels of college football. And when I tell you they cannot stand the state of college football right now, it's an understatement. It is what it is. You got to deal with it, because I'm telling you right now, and I was getting ready to ask you, the transfer portal for Power 5 schools, it begins Monday, December the 5th, I believe. FCS kids I don't know if they have a separate transfer portal that they're in, but they're already able to put their names in the hat. But I'm telling you right now, I've had people tell me that the Drake Mays of the world, even though he is a diehard Tar Heel, entire family, dad played quarterback there, I've heard that some schools are going to offer this kid $3 to $5 million to come play quarterback for him.
Yep, that's right. And see this is something that's good discussion on in the off season, but we've got to do something to regulate some of this. And I know some of it was settled down just because of the market, but But Shane's right that the money some of these kids are going to be offered or would almost rival what you get in the NFL.
Yeah, well, it's free agency, as you said, but there's no structure to it. In the NFL, you have a time period, and when you sign that contract, you actually have to stick with that contract, or the team releases you. Right?
Yes.
In this case, if the Gators saw what Brent Beaird was doing as a college quarterback at a lesser university, and we say, you know what, Brent, we're going to give you $3 million to come be our starting quarterback next year. Well, you can come here and then you can haul ass the very next year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and again, I won't belabor the point here, but this is why a lot of people think that we're headed for which is just what you said, that we're probably headed one day for contracts with these kids. But if you go that route, you're opening up a Pandora's box that's even more difficult to deal with than what we got now. But to get but again, as you said, to get some kind of structure here, Shane, we may end up going that direction at some time.
Yeah, let me get to a couple of these texts here, Brent, before we move on. Anonymous texter says, with reports of AR cleaning out his locker, the situation with Kidney, is Jack Miller the guy to lead us in the bowl game? If so, from watching him in practice and earlier in the summer and spring, how do you think we play style-wise, and what does he bring to the table? He's a good thrower. I would assume Jack Miller will be the guy. Yeah, Anthony will not be back. I've been saying that all year long. That was my gut feeling, and I don't blame him. I think the Gators, we will be one of the schools paying somebody a lot of money to come play quarterback for us, in my opinion.
Sure, agree.
I firmly believe that. Let's see with this one. Didn't Florida go to the SEC championship game twice under McElwain where they had no shot at the playoffs? Yeah, that's right. I appreciate the text on the Titan Tomorrow text line. All right, Brent. Lost my train of thought here. What's going on with give us some nuggets. Just, obviously if you're not playing in a championship game, I think that, you're preparing for bowls. Did we see the last of Bryce Young with Alabama? The only way Bryce Young plays again, in my opinion, is if they get into the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Or unless they structure some kind of a deal for him to where he wants to do that. But I think that's probably the case. In doubt that he would be in the bowl game. There's some speculation now that Bama would play Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl, but we'll wait and see on that. To me, the incredible streak that continues for Nick Saban is when they beat Auburn, they won 10 games for the 15th straight year minimum. I don't know if that'll ever be broken. Clemson had 12 years of that. FSU had 14. That's just amazing, frankly. Now, Alabama does have some guys in the transfer portal. Damian George, offensive lineman. Yesterday, a couple of their wide receivers, Trayshawn Holden in the transfer portal, Christian Leary, also Kyrie Jackson, the cornerback, and Trey Sanders, the running back. So we're going to see that not only with Alabama, but with a lot of teams.
There's no question about that. I just got a text on the Titan Tomorrow text line from Jimmy in Memphis, Tennessee. He says, Shane, you were in charge of the Gator football program and money was not a factor. Give me your list of quarterbacks that you would want to come play. Well, I'd have to think about it. Only two. The two that come to the top of my mind that I know that would possibly leave their. Obviously, we'd all love to have Caleb Williams. That ain't happening.
No.
Drake Bay would be my number one pick.
Yeah.
And Sam Hartman probably be my number two pick. And there's probably some other guys out there that I'm just not right off the top of my head. I'd have to think about it. But are there any other quarterbacks that, Brent, you think that the Gators could go after?
Hartman was a guy I was thinking about in Wake Forest. He would be tremendous. But again, that's just some speculation. We don't even know if that's going to happen. But let's be realistic that these kids are going to listen. And again, without belaboring the point here, this is a lot of the problem is who are these kids listening to? And I don't even know if they're even having the discussion with the right people with this. But yeah, if a guy like Hartman is available, he would be good. I know Malik Hornsby at Arkansas is free, but look,
we don't want him. We don't want him, Brad.
No, he's not. That's what. Look, he would be a much better wide receiver than he ever would be a quarterback.
Yeah, the days of here's the situation, because Joseph says here, I'd rather let Rashada roll as a freshman than one 1 year guy coming in. I disagree. You can't wait around anymore.
No, you
the fans will be going crazy. You've got to find somebody that has thrown footballs at a high level in college football, that if you've watched them play a ton of games on tape, and bring that guy in, whoever that guy is. Andy says, Shane, could Drake May transfer to Florida's brother pitch for the Gators during their championship season in 2017? I mean, he could, but you got to remember his dad played quarterback at North Carolina. He's got 3 other brothers that played sports, I believe, all at North Carolina, except the one brother that was on the Gator baseball team when they won the national title. I'm telling you, I've heard the Ohio States, I've heard Alabama even wanting to throw money at Drake May.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a feeding frenzy.
It will be, yes.
Yes. So, Brent, I got off on a different tangent there, but
that's okay.
What else you got going on in college football for us?
Well, it's amazing. What we've talked almost half an hour, not even mentioned Hugh Freeze. In that situation, he has jettisoned most of that staff. He's keeping Cadillac Williams, but the D coordinator Jeff Smitting is gone. Offensive line coach Will Friend is gone. Ike Hilliard is now off the staff. He did not keep him, and he didn't keep Jimmy Brumbaugh, who is from Keystone Heights. Jimmy played at Auburn, tremendous player. So still don't know exactly what that staff's going to be. That's going to be very important to see where that is going. Again, Eric Gilbert at Georgia, still not playing much. Still don't know what he's going to be doing. And they're just trying to help him along as it going. Anybody who watches the SEC championship game, keep an eye out for Harold Perkins. 6'2", 220 is going to be maybe Will Anderson like as far as the attention. Would you agree, Shane? Over the next year or two, with what they're looking at with him. Will Levis at Kentucky is going to the NFL. So we don't know if he's going to play in the bowl game or not. And the offensive coordinator at Kentucky is out the door now. They have dismissed him. That was Rich Scangalero. So he may end up going back to the NFL also to go along with that. A lot of players included. Did you catch this, Shane? Dominic Lovett of Missouri, the wide receiver, is one of the better wide receivers in the league. But he's going into the transfer report and leaving Missouri. So, and look, I've got a bunch of these I could go over. I know we're getting short on time. Overall, I'll be glad to take any other questions. But it's going to be a wild next few days, particularly as Shane said on Monday when the transfer portal officially opens.
Yeah, and then Joseph says freshmen can play nowadays. Look around: Bryce Young, Stroud, Caleb Williams. The list goes on. These high school kids are trained. Well, first of all, Bryce Young did not play as a freshman. He redshirted. Stroud redshirted. Correct me if I'm wrong on those, right? Bryce Young redshirted. Yeah. Bryce Young definitely redshirted. Caleb Williams played as a true freshman, not at the beginning, but late in the first season. But he was the number one quarterback in America coming out. And I mean, I agree. I mean, But again, people said the same thing about Anthony. So you just never know. But I personally want a guy who has played, who has performed, and can win football games.
Well, and look, if you're getting a quarterback, you need somebody that's accurate. And that's one thing I've learned from you over the years is who's got the footwork and can hit his receiver. So that's going to be important. By the way, I did want to throw this in here real quick. Darryl Dickey, the offensive coordinator at A&M's, have been fired. So, but my question, Shane, is would Jimbo allow someone to come in there and actually be an offensive coordinator, and he be more of a CEO? I think we know the answer to that, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, Jimbo called the plays. I don't care if Darryl Dickey can have the OC title next to his name in the program. Jimbo called every one of those damn plays.
Sure he did. Absolutely.
Yeah. Dan says Florida will get a high-profile QB transfer. I agree with that. I know they're going to try like hell. So but the problem is you got other schools that are up there that have a lot of money going to be doing the same thing. Brent, great stuff as always, my man. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Great. Thanks, Shane. Always enjoy it. Take care.
Yeah, that's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. We're going to take a quick timeout, come back, and we join by the voice of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Frank Frangie. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate, with premium brands like Nike, International Diamond Center, Dave & Buster's, Palmetto Moon, Escape Apology, Visor Rooftop, and the HBC's restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, the #1 celebrity polished casual restaurant in America. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. Also want to thank Dave & Buster's. They're on as a new partner with our program. We'll get them listed with all our great sponsors. Let's go to the Titan MR Hotline. We're joined by the voice of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Frank Frangie. Good morning, Frank. How are you, my man?
Shane, I'm doing great, man. How are you? How's everything in Gainesville?
Oh, it's going. Let's just say that. I'm going to get your thoughts because if people don't know, Frank's a Gator. We'll get your Gator thoughts here shortly. But Jags, you being the play-by-play guy, if people haven't seen it, you got to go check it out on Twitter. Frank's call at the end when Trevor leads them down and then the 2-point conversion. Just tell us how exciting that was. And I've been saying all along, Trevor Lawrence has a chance to be really, really good, and he's getting better.
Yeah, well, first of all, for people that asked, I did not have a heart attack, Shane. I'm good. Okay, I'm very healthy. But it was a lot of fun at the end of the game. We have this new thing where we put this GoPro camera in our booth, and if anyone like me loses their mind, it kind of makes it on Twitter, so it was kind of fun. Look, Shane, they're pretty good. I know 4-7 doesn't sound pretty good, and you are what your record says you are, and I get that. But I've watched this is my 9th year doing these games, and I've watched all 27 years of this team, and these guys are good. They're in every game. There's a toughness to them. They're well coached. The guy's a really good coach, Doug Peterson. And the quarterback's getting there. Trevor played great last week. I tell people all the time, he just got here, man. You know this, Shane. It's hard. Quarterback's hard. And he's only his 28th start. And he's now thrown 16 touchdowns and 6 picks. His passer rating's really good the last 3-4 games. I'm not surprised. He's going to be a special player. He's a really neat kid. And the Jags are coming. They might have started too late this year. It's going to, they probably can't lose much again and get into the playoffs. But we'll see. They're playing well right now. It's a good feeling.
Trevor Lawrence, you look at what's going on with Zach Wilson up with the Jets, and I've been around a lot of first-round pick quarterbacks that were picked just arrogant. Nothing's ever their fault. I don't know this guy at all, but just watching him in interviews, he looks like a great teammate. He understands what it's all about to play quarterback. And that's why I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be a starter in this league for a long time and be successful, because he gets it. Am I wrong there?
You're dead on. That read on him is completely right, Shane. He's a humble kid. Look, people have been telling this guy how good he is since he was in the 9th grade, and he doesn't carry that with him. That's not who he is. He's a respectful, humble young guy. And I'm not just saying that because it's the thing to say. He's a really good dude. And I've seen all of them too, by the way. I know exactly what you're talking about. Arrogant, entitled, and he's not any of that. He's a good dude. Now, he had to learn how to play. The biggest problem I think Trevor had when he got in the league is, Shane, those Wake Forest cornerbacks couldn't cover those Clemson receivers. And I'm guessing those Marietta cornerbacks couldn't cover the Cartersville receivers. So he's always had better players than anybody he was playing against. Well, the NFL, they're all good. And he had to learn you can't stick balls in there now that you could before. And he has learned that. So, but no, he's a great kid, man. He's as good as you think he is. Your read on him is dead on. He's just a good dude, and he's a good teammate, and he's respectful, and he's a fun guy to be around. He's going to be a really good player. He really is.
Well, the way he handled last year's situation says a lot about him. Let's talk about Doug Peterson. I thought it was a tremendous hire. Obviously, the wins aren't there yet, but I think they're coming. This guy, he knows how to call plays, and he knows how to handle the quarterback. Don't you think he has a chance to take the ingredients that the Jags have? Because they got some dudes that on the outside, and I think they got, correct me if I'm wrong, the Alabama kid in the trade, the wide receiver. Is he eligible to play this year or next year?
Not till next year. He's been suspended for the year for gambling on his own team. So Calvin Ridley's the guy you're talking about.
Yes.
He's got a chance to be a really good player. And that's what they don't have, take it off the top guy. Let me go back to your question about Doug Peterson. Really good coach, really good guy, understands it. Look, this guy won a Super Bowl, Shane, with Nick Foles against Belichick and Brady. Think about that for a second. Yeah. Won a Super Bowl with Foles against Belichick and Brady. Really good coach, great play caller, understands how to develop a quarterback. But the best thing about him is he gets these guys. They buy in. He knows when to push them. He knows when not to push them. He treats them like grown-ups, which not every coach does. In fact, the most recent one didn't. This guy does. They respect him. He had to earn that respect. He told me early on, it looked like for a while there, people said, well, boy, it doesn't look like the OTAs are that hard. He's giving them days off. And he said, Frank, I got to re-earn these guys' respect after what they've gone through. They think all we do is beat them down. Well, that's not the way it works. And I think he's regained their respect, Shane, and he's a really good coach. And look, they got to get better players. Their cornerback position isn't very good right now. They've got some good receivers, but nobody really to take the top off the defense. Calvin Ridley will change that. They're also a young team, and young teams learn as they go, but they've got a real chance, and he's the reason. I agree with that.
ETN, I think he was banged up last week. What's his status?
He's going to be all right. He hurt his foot. They were worried about it because he had the Liz Frank last year, which knocked out his whole season. So when his foot gets injured, everybody immediately panics. He wanted to go back in the game, put the helmet back on, raced up to the sidelines. The medical staff said, no, let's not do this. If it had been a Super Bowl, if it had been an elimination game, Shane, he'd have gone back in last week. It wasn't. They think he's going to play. He went through walkthroughs this week. He hadn't practiced full yet, but they think he's going to probably practice today, and they think he'll probably be out there. He's a good player. They need him because they don't have a lot of running backs now, but I think he'll play against Detroit.
Andy's got a question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon Law. He says, Frank Fred Taylor made the final 28 cut for next year's Hall of Fame inductions. Do you think he'll get in with this class?
He's the next running back to go in, and so I don't know if it'll be this year. I hope it is. It'll be in the next 2 or 3 years, but he'll be the next running back. He's the best running back left that's not in yet who's eligible, and he belongs in. If you look at his numbers, if you watch the tape, what always hurt Fred, Shane, is he played in a small market here in Jacksonville, and he was in the AFC. Back then, the Pro Bowl was AFC, NFC. It's changed 1,000 times, but he was in the AFC when so many more well-known backs, not better backs, but Jerome Bettis and Curtis Martin, Edgerrin James, they were always going to the Pro Bowl. So Fred wasn't getting to the Pro Bowl, and people didn't know his name as well. I think he's better than all those guys. I think he'll get in. I don't know if it'll be this year, but he's going to go in.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, and they think I'm crazy, but ever since I became a Gator in '88, I feel like he's the best running back the University of Florida had. And Emmett played then. I'm not talking about a pro career. Yeah. I'm talking about in the orange and blue. I thought Fred Taylor was the best running back I ever saw.
He was the most talented. I don't know if I'd say he's a better player than Emmett, but he was the most talented player. Big, strong, fast, can change the game. He's one of the most talented running backs I've ever seen as far as just talent, size, strength, speed. He's in that Herschel Bow conversation as a college player, Shane. He's all that, and he's a good dude too, man. He worked hard here. He got caught on some the team was very good up through 99. Then he got caught on some bad teams, and that wasn't his fault. He did his part. Hell, he kept him in some games. Fred should go in. There's no question.
Yeah. Frank, we got a text here on the Titan MRI text line from Tom up in Valdosta. He says, Frank, who do you think will be in the Super Bowl this year, and who are the best teams that you've seen while calling the Jags?
This Kansas City team is the best team I've seen other than the Patriots and Brady's in my 9 years of doing it. They're the best team in the league. Say what you want about the Bills. Say what you want about whoever else. Kansas City's the best team. It's the most dynamic quarterback. They're going to be in the Super Bowl, and I'd be shocked if they get beat again. I think they're really good, and Andy Reid's a really good coach, and they really know how to play. I can't imagine. We went up there and played them a couple of weeks ago, and the Jags were playing pretty well. It's the only game the Jags have played all year where they lost by double figures. It was 10, and they really were in the game, so they're the best team. I think that the NFC is a freaking toss-up. Who do you like this week? If I had to pick a team, I'd say Dallas. I think they're playing better than anybody right now. We're going to see them in a couple of weeks. But they found themselves. They started finding themselves with Cooper Rush, and then when Dak came back. So if you ask me to pick right now, I'd say Kansas City beats Dallas in the Super Bowl.
All right, let's switch gears real quick. Let's talk Gators. We've had a lot of talk. Obviously, the quarterback situation's a mess right now with what happened yesterday. But I was telling people, I've heard from multiple sources or whatever you want to call them, not just for the Gators, but the Drake Mays of the world, the Sam Hartmans. It's going to be a bidding war. Mm-hmm. I want to know Frank Frangie's thoughts on this NIL stuff. Do you like it?
No, because I'm an old guy, and old guys aren't supposed to like it, but I get it. What I do like, Shane, is that players get theirs. I wish there was a better way to do it sometimes, a more equitable way to do it. There's no rules, there's no guidelines now. So one school can do this, and another school can do that, and state legislatures are in play. So I don't love the way it manifests itself. I do like the fact that players can get paid. That part I like. I don't love it as an inducement. But back to where you're going originally with the question is, can you come up with enough money to lure a player from another school? That's what everybody's doing. It just seems kind of weird for me. As for the two guys you talked about, I can't imagine Drake May leaving North Carolina. I just don't. I know his brother played baseball at Florida, but he's a North Carolina kid. That's a North Carolina family. They all played there, man. The brother, the father, the mom. I can't imagine him not finishing his career at North Carolina. I don't care what the NIL money is. They'll match enough of it. Sam Hartman could be in play. I think a guy at a non-traditional football school like Wake Forest, that's not the only one, but a guy at a non-traditional football school who's not quite ready to be drafted as high as he would like, who wants to play in the big spotlight, that's the kind of guy that you can look up and he winds up at Florida or Auburn or Miami or wherever. So I could see something like that. So I don't love the NIL, but yeah, Florida's quarterback situation, I got a lot of thoughts about it like you do, and not even talk about what happened yesterday, just a lot of thoughts about it. But that's where they got to get. But you know this. You call the games. You and I talk all the time after the games. That's where they've got to get it figured out. The defense wasn't very good, but I got a hunch he's going to fix that. I think you fix that with 5 stars and 4 stars. They got to figure out quarterback, no question.
Yeah, and having said that, I mean, let me ask you this: you watch a lot of college football. With the 14 playoff right now, are you a 14 playoff guy, or are you glad they're going to change in 2024 and go to 12?
I'm absolutely glad they're going to go to 12. It keeps more teams involved. It keeps more fan bases involved. You get to the middle of November, or the end of November, Shane, there's only 4 or 5 teams, 7 or 8 teams at most that could win the national title. There's only a handful of teams that And now because of that, bowls seem less important than ever. So no one's going to play in the bowls. And now with 12 teams in it, that means 15 or 16 teams by the middle of November still think they can get in it or more, So no, it's way better. We've waited way too long for this. In what world did college football ever think we were better off not having a tournament? I'm elated we're going to do it. Elated.
I agree 100% with that. We've had some people talk about how, we talk quarterback a lot on my show, obviously. But the Jaden Rashad is a highly recruited kid that's committed to the Gators. He has not signed, but some people would like for him just to take over next year as a true freshman.
Right.
I don't think Billy Napier can do that. He, in my personal opinion, he's got to find, as you said, an established guy that they have seen on tape that has performed at a high level, regardless of what level it is, to come in and be the starting quarterback next year for the Gators. Am I crazy to think that?
You're dead on. And look, I got a bunch of thoughts on quarterback. First of all, let me answer your question. We now finally in college football, whether I like it or not, have ability now to go get an experienced guy. That's in 150 years of college football, no one's ever been able to go get an experienced guy. You might fall into one, but no one's been able to go get an experience. Now you can go recruit an experienced guy. That's a great asset. And I think Florida has to do that given their current situation. Shane, I think there's 4 components to quarterback play. I talk about this on my show all the time. Number one, there's the hardware, size, strength, arm strength. How fast can you run nowadays? There's accuracy, there's leadership, and then there's that knack of knowing what to do. Shane, I covered you for 3 years there. On the hardware side, you were about a C, okay? You're not the biggest guy. You couldn't run out of sight. You're about a C. But in the other 3, leadership, accuracy, and knack of knowing what to do, you're an A+. Danny Werfel was about a D in the hardware side, right? But in the other 3, he was an A+. Leadership, accuracy, knack of knowing what to do. You got to go find that guy, don't you? I'll sacrifice a little bit of the hardware, just a little bit, right? If I can find a guy that has the other 3 components. And that's what I would look for. Sam Hartman, you mentioned him, because we're all watching him now, right? Because we heard all the rumors. He's got B, C, and D in spades, doesn't he? Smart, knows what to do, accurate, got a knack for how to play. I think Florida's got to find that guy. They got to find that guy. And I think that's more important in my opinion, that's more important than anything else.
You said it extremely well. Frank, I appreciate your time, my man. What time's tea time today?
Yeah, I'm not
Is it too cold for you?
It is way too cold for me, by the way. So even if I didn't, but Thursday's kind of my day to spend a little time with Doug Peterson. That's kind of our day. And so I'll probably spend most of the late morning with him and kind of get an idea of what they're going to do. So no golf for me today. And it's way too cold. I'm a wimp, man. I play golf when it's 75 and up, bro. Who you kidding?
Yeah,
so,
I hear you. Let everybody know how they can listen to your program daily over there in Jax.
Yeah, we got an app, the 1010XL app or the 92.5 app. We got 2 of them. We're on 3 to 6 every day, and we have a lot of fun. So check us out. Love to have you do it.
Frank Frangie, appreciate it, my man.
Okay, Shane, take care.
That's Frank. Join us on the Titan MR text line. Going to take our final timeout. We'll be right back. We'll wrap up this Thursday edition. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Chris Storing Mortgage, they do mortgage only right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Storing Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. I want to thank Frank Frangie and Brent Beaird for joining us. Also want to thank Dave and Busters for jumping on board of the program. We appreciate that. And we will jump into a couple of these Facebook Lives. Joseph says, stability, y'all said, is going to take 3 years. We don't need a merry-go-round at QB. It's going to take 3 years to get the entire roster, but we cannot go through what we did this year at the quarterback position. We have to have consistency is what I think. That's my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion. I'm very confident that no matter what, they're going to find a guy who has played a lot of college football to be the quarterback next year. Got a text here on the Titan MR text line. It's very long, so I'm going to read it anyway because I can't paraphrase it. This is from Dave in Macon. He says, very sad to hear about Kidna. Just one more challenging issue Coach Napier has to deal with coming off a disappointing first year. For all the reasons you, HBC, JC, Billy Martin, and Mike Martin have expressed over the past 12 weeks, the loss to Vandy completely deflated the unrealistic average performance expectations of a team with anemic talent and a QB that has continued to be a bust in terms of performance, leadership, mental, and physical toughness. I know we're beating a dead horse, but his throwing mechanics are horrid. He's soft and he hates to run the ball. If he had a tenth of Tebow's competitiveness, mental and physical toughness, we'd be at least 8-4. It's been a month since I texted you, just venting. Forgive me. Like I said in my last text, Napier better figure out the QB situation next year. Could be a replay of this year. Thanks for the text, my man. I was got another one here that I wanted to read. Dan says UF will maybe have 4 guys drafted. Georgia had 5 drafted from their defense in the first round last year and 15 guys overall. UF needs depth. I don't know who our 4 guys that might get drafted. I know Osiris Torrance will be drafted. I don't know who else. Ventrell probably will be like a 5th or 6th rounder, but he's had so many injuries that may make teams shy away from him. Let's get to this day in sports, which is brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. Give Comfort Temp Heating and Air a call today at 352-376-2366. This day in sports, in 1980, the 46th Heisman Trophy Award was awarded to George Rogers, running back, South Carolina. And Big George is a piece of work. If you're a Gamecock fan, you go to a game there at Williams-Brice Stadium, you can get your picture taken with George and the Heisman. He carries it in the trunk of his car, and he puts it on this golf cart, and he rides around while people are tailgating, and they pay him to take pictures with it. So I love Big George. He's hilarious. Joseph said, I'd love to see some of these idiots try to tackle AR or even catch one of his passes. Well, that's the problem. He does not throw a catchable ball, Joseph. He's got to work on, well, that's something you can work on. That's just how the ball comes out of your hand. No, I wouldn't want to try to tackle him, but he does not want to run. I mean, that's been proven if you watch the games, but he will have a chance to be a really good pro if he goes to the right situation, and we shall see. Ruzoga State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. I got so many texts on the Titan MR text line, I don't have time to read them all. Josh in Mississippi says, after watching the Gators play this season, what cornerbacks and safeties out of the young guys would you start for the bowl game? Assumption is guys like Dean, Torrance, and Johnson are gone. So guys to choose from will be Kamari, Mitchell, McMillan, Jordan Young, Kimber. I'd wait and see who opts out. But yeah, I would play as many of the young guys as possible. People are asking me who's going to play quarterback in the bowl game. I would say Jack Miller would be your starter, and Max Brown would be your backup, and Kyle Engel would be your third guy. I'm pretty sure that's what the depth chart will look like. Again, I want to thank all our sponsors, New Dave & Buster's, obviously Comfort Temp, who does our This Day in Sports each and every day and do a fine job doing what they do. Hope you enjoyed today's program, folks. Tomorrow, we will have JC. We'll do our Peachland Dental weekend picks and a couple other things as well. So have a great day out there. Stay warm if you're cold like Frank Frangie was. And we'll see you tomorrow, folks. Take care.